Thanks for joining us for part 2 of the resume video for the internship subject. We're now up to the experience section. So within the experience section is where you're going to be highlighting the key achievements and the transferable skills that you've gotten through paid work, unpaid work, volunteering. This could be part-time work, full-time work, casual work. Lots of different things can be included in this experience section. It's about showing the transferable skills you've got for the role that you're looking for. In this section, you're going to highlight firstly the job title. So what role did you actually do? So make sure that your job title is really clear so that if someone is quickly reading through your resume, they get an idea of what you did. So for example, my official job title is Employability and Internship Consultant. Whereas on my resume or my LinkedIn, I would generally say Careers Advisor or Career Coach because that's the job title that makes sense to people and it's easy for someone to understand what that job is. So you start with your job title, you then have the name of the company, and then the location, if you've got multiple different locations. If all your roles are in Sydney, for example, you don't have to put the location. Also really important that to the far right-hand side, you put the dates. And not just the year, you also have to put month year to month year. So if you were working somewhere for a week, or 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, you might have March 2017 to March 2017, which highlights you're there for a month or less. You don't specifically need to say the exact number of days you worked there. Like you also don't need to say whether it's paid or unpaid, whether you were full-time or casual. That's not what's important in this section. What's important is the achievement statements. What did you achieve on this job? So, as I've already said, it's not about listing every single duty that you did. It's about showing what you actually achieved. You can do this through numbers and statistics and percentages. And also you've got to be really consistent with the formatting, making sure that all the dot points are in line, that all of the subheadings are really clear and easy to find, and that you've got the same kind of spacing throughout. Another thing to consider is using the right tense. If you're currently doing the job, it's researching, drafting, assisting. If it's in the past, if you've finished that job, you no longer work there, then it's developed, provided, coached, using the past tense rather than the current tense. Make sure you're aware of this because otherwise that can be a grammatical error. So I'm now going to go into a bit more detail about what an achievement statement is and how you should actually be writing the information under each experience section. So within your workbook, there's a workbook on resumes that you've got on UTS Online. This is one of the pages that talks about how to write achievement statements. You start with an action word, like created, and then you explain what you did. And then if you can, you use some measurable outcomes, and you're really showing what did you achieve and how did you achieve it. So it's thinking about specific examples of things that you did while you were on that job. You might think, oh, I didn't really achieve anything. All I was doing, I was a waitress. I was just serving tables and, taking money. But actually think about it. Maybe you started off getting really small tips. And then after, 2 or 3 months, your tips started to improve. So what actually happened was you increased your incentive pay by a certain percentage over a certain period of time through, what was it that you did? Did you focus more on customer service? Did you improve your knowledge of the business? What did you do to achieve that increase? So really thinking about any job, there's generally some approximate numbers that you can use. It's also really important to be showing the transferable skills and showing that you can write in a professional manner. I've got a few examples of this for you as well. Let's start with this one. It's quite basic. It's someone who works as a cashier at a supermarket. And what they've done here in this example is they've listed their duties, which is what I've said is not what you need to be doing in a resume. Instead, what you want to be doing is showing the transferable skills that you had and showing you can write in a professional manner. So that's quite a basic example to have a look at, but let's have a look at the next one. This role has a bit more detail and depth to it. But I don't think that this is really showing the best about the skills of this person. I'll give you a few minutes to just have a quick look at it and think about how you could write this better. What do you think? What I think is that first point isn't really needed. You don't need to explain the job or the company you worked for if it's generally pretty clear. Membership coordinator, that's a clear title. ABC Adventure Club, that's a clear company. If the company was just called ABC, maybe then you'd need to highlight a little bit more detail as to who the company is. But if you can generally pick it up, then it's not needed to waste a line explaining the company. And next, what they've done is integrated all of the things that they did on the job and then separately put their skills. What they could do instead is kind of integrate these together, show some achievement statements and show the transferable skills with specific examples of times when you showed that skill. It's evidence. Give evidence to show that you've got time management skills. Just listing it doesn't show that you've got that skill. So that's a quick example, and you'll find more examples like this in the workbook and also the resume examples as well that have been provided for you. So maybe you've got a great problem. Maybe you've got too much work experience on your resume. Maybe you've worked as a waitress at 4 different places over the last 5 years. What you could do then is, in a couple of them, give more detail and show your achievement statements, and then maybe just list the other ones underneath. Don't just list your roles if that's all you've got. This is only if you've got too much experience in your resume that you can't list out every single job with achievement statements. So that's the experience area. The main thing to remember is focus on achievement statements and those transferable skills that you got in one role that can transfer across to another role. Maybe you were helping to train new staff members and you might have been doing that at a cafe, but that's a transferable skill that you could take into a marketing company. Next is extracurricular. So on your resume, it's really important to show a bit of personality, a little bit about who you are outside of work and study. So think about what are the types of things you could put in your extracurricular section. There are a lot of different things you can consider in this section. When I was talking about education earlier, I mentioned that if you had awards and achievements that you'd gotten at school or uni, that this is actually the section to put them in. So here's a quick example of how you might lay out your extracurricular section. You don't need as much detail here as you do in the job area. It's really just about saying, what did you do, who did you do it with, and when. Keep in mind that it's not about listing your interests and hobbies. Instead, it's about providing evidence to show that you achieved something in this area, and that shows an interest. So looking at this person, what you would see is there's someone who's interested in piano and someone who's interested in basketball, and maybe also the outdoors. So you're starting to pick up what their interests and hobbies are through specific things they've done. So remember to keep the most recent thing first and show evidence. As I said, don't just list piano. Show maybe a recital that you performed at or a certificate that you received. Think about events, certificates, things that you got involved in that represent your hobbies. So here's the example resume we started with. We've gone through the contact details, the career objective, the education section, your experience section. Also, as you can see on this resume, there's a volunteer and charity section. That's something you can do if you've got enough paid work experience so that that section's full. If you've got paid work experience and volunteer, you can separate them if you'd like, or you can put them together. Remember, it's about showing you the best way you can on your resume. We've then got your extracurricular and awards, or extracurricular and achievements, whichever one you want. And something we haven't touched on yet is this additional section of strengths and skills. So this isn't a required section on a resume, but it's something that can be recommended when you're early in your career. If you're applying for a job and they're specifically highlighting certain skills they want, like teamwork or communication, this is a great chance to show specific evidence of times when you've shown those skills. And as you can see here, it's using the right grammar as well. It's not using I, me, my, and it's not using third person. So rather than saying, I coached students to inspire and motivate engagement, it just says coach students to inspire and motivate engagement. It's about writing it in the correct format throughout your resume. And then at the very end of your resume, you write references available on request. This is the normal way to end your resume. It's not expected that you put your contact details of your referees and references on your resume. It's expected that when they're required, the recruiter or the company will ask you for them. And what this does is it gives you a great chance to then reach out to your referees and give them a call and say, XYZ company is going to call you about a role. And do you think you can talk a little bit about these skills that I have? Or can you talk about the time when I did this? It's a great chance for you then to be able to coach your references to make sure that you get a really good reference. So the last thing I want to touch on before I finish up here in the video is about tailoring. Every time you submit a resume, you should be editing and tweaking it to make sure that it works with the job you're applying for. So let's just imagine that this is the internship that you're applying for. When you're reading the job description, make sure you're reading it and looking for which skills they're actually asking for. So I've highlighted this one for you. It's pretty clear that they're asking for specific skills. They're asking for things like adaptability, communication skills, resilience. So on your resume, you need to be showing that you have these skills. What sections of your resume do you think you could show these skills? You've probably guessed it. Your career objective is a great place to do it. Your achievement statements in your employment area. Your skills, if you do the skills section. Also your extracurricular. You might do a lot of different extracurricular activities, but you might edit and change it each time, depending on what goes with which role and which company. Also, a really great idea is to research the company that you're applying for. You can look on their website, their social media. Obviously, you can Google them. You can use your network to see if you know anyone who works there. The reason you want to do this is because there might be specific things that company is known for or look for when they're hiring. And the more you know about the company, the more you can make sure you tailor your application to suit what they are looking for. So my last bit of advice is really about creating a master resume. So have a copy of a really long resume where you've got everything, every bit of employment, every skill you've got, all your subjects, everything listed on it. And then each time you apply for a role, you cut it down to that 2-page resume that you need to be using. Cutting down to the key subjects that are important for that role, the key achievement statements which show the right skills for that job. So you might have a really long list of everything, but your resume that you submit for this assignment and also for jobs you apply for is generally going to be about 2 pages long. And then come and visit us in Careers Drop-In. We've got some great advice. We can have a look at your resume and give you personalized feedback as well. Research the role, read the job description, and make sure your resume and the job description match. That's generally most of the advice I have on your resume. It's around making it clear and simple, making it easy for someone to say, yes, you're a great fit for this role. And as I've said, please come visit us at Careers. We're happy to have a look at your resume and give you personalized feedback on areas that you can make it better. And do use UTS Online and have a look at the resume workbook and also the resume examples. And they'll be really great things for you to use when you're creating your resume or updating your resume for any job applications. Thanks for watching and best of luck.